are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. Welcome to today's webinar. This is the first of a four-part series on safe transportation for every pedestrian. It's Victoria Beal with the Ohio LTAP Center. And Ray, we're going to do a sound check with you right now. Are you there?
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, yes. Good.
Hopefully those on the call can also hear Ray. I'll go over a couple of housekeeping items and then I'll turn things over to Ray. First off, would like to mention that we do have a copy of the slides for today's webinar in the handout section of the GoToWebinar box. If you have an issue downloading those, don't worry. We will be sending them out as a link on an email after the webinar is completed as well. Secondly, we have a questions box, and that's where we'd like you to enter questions that you have. Just to make sure that everyone can find it and you know where it is, if you wouldn't mind just dropping a hello or a hi in there for me, I would appreciate it. I just want to make sure that you guys are able to locate it on the pod. And then last but not least, this is additional 3 parts. If you complete all 4 parts, we're going to give you credit for this course in our system where we track the courses that have been completed. So. All right, great. We're seeing lots of highs, hellos, good mornings. We even have somebody on there from Northern California, so you have a really much earlier morning than us. So, and they can definitely hear you, Ray. So that's good. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
We're nationwide.
Yeah. All right, Ray, take it away.
All right, thank you, Victoria. Good morning, everybody. As Victoria was saying, my name called it, of course, stands for State House Initiative. And now it's an EDC round 5 and part of EDC 4. So there's my information, contact information. See dot.ohio.gov, but every LTAP center either is part of a state highway department of transportation or is part of a university. So we're lucky enough to be part of a Ohio Department of Transportation. That's why my email address is like that. You know, if we were having this class in person, like we could have done up until a month or 2 ago, we used to go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves and who they work for and position they hold and why they decided to attend this workshop. And I guess we can't really do that with this one, but we'll try our best to figure that out in a couple of polling questions coming up. A little background about myself. I've always been tied to something to do with roadway safety. I was a traffic engineer, and when I first started out, and a studies engineer, so I reviewed a lot of highway safety studies when I started out with the Ohio Department of Transportation, and also traffic impact studies. So roadway safety, transportation planning, things like that. And then I haven't always worked for the state government. I've also worked for local government. I worked for the city of Columbus, Ohio, and their public service department, the traffic engineering division for almost 15 years. And then I came back to ODOT about 10 years ago. So I reviewed a lot of private development, but I also helped utility divisions with their work zone traffic control and things like that. Pretty much whatever is needed for those that work for the local government and how that works. You're supposed to do certain things, but then you never know. Some things pop up that you need to help out with as well. So you get a lot of things, a lot of good background in different areas at the local level. So as you can see, if we were doing a classroom session today, part of this class would be a field visit and a group exercise. You know, we've broken this webinar, this course down into 4 different webinars. And so as we get as we get to number 4, maybe we can do some sort of a virtual field visit with the help of Google Maps. And we'll also in session 4, we will hear from Caitlin Harley, who works for the Ohio Department of Transportation, and she'll be talking about some Ohio-specific step improvements. So this is part of the Everyday Counts initiative, so you might be wondering, what is Everyday Count? So it's a state-based model that identifies and rapidly deploys proven but underutilized innovations, and for 4 different reasons. One is to shorten the project delivery process and to enhance roadway safety or reduce congestion and improve environmental sustainability. And there's a lot of good information on the Everyday Counts. You can go to, for instance, if you go to Google and type in STEP plus Everyday Counts, you'll see the EDC 5 in your own time about the STEP systemic application 2016. They experienced the most pedestrian fatalities since 1990. And so that's obviously not good news, right? We expect us to get better at certain things as time goes on and to lower all kinds of crashes. But then it's not good to see a spike of that size come out of almost out of the blue. And so we need to get better at how we treat pedestrians, how we can make it safer for them. And so that's what we're going to be getting into today by looking at some proven safety countermeasures as you lead up. That's one's pedestrian, a good one to us. Accessibility important. And the elephant in the room, I guess, is because too many people dying on our roadways. And as we take a look at some of these graphs, the one on the left is some data from 2009 all the way up to 2016. And you can see that it's kind of like an upward trend since then, from 4,109 pedestrian fatalities in 2009 up to 5,987 in 2016. And then the graphic on the right shows that pedestrian fatalities increased 27% from 2007 to 2016, while all other traffic deaths decreased by 14%. So a definite problem exists with pedestrian safety. And so pedestrians now account for a larger proportion of traffic fatalities, 60%, than they have in the past 33 years. So then go into this page here, and so we take a look at local data. Every state organizations pull pieces. You can save time by asking the local contact for pedestrian data, but it depends on your agency. I was able to get some data from specific Ohio data from our highway safety team at ODOT. And of course, the 2019 data shows that the total crashes involving pedestrians were 2,563 last year. So that's just total fatalities, not breaking it down. But here's, like, for instance, the state of Missouri. They have some great ideas, some proven countermeasures there, where you want to improve the lighting in selected urban locations, and some pedestrian improvements at signalized intersections, like you've seen maybe some the countdown pedestrian signals, advanced walk phase, etc., or install or improve pedestrian signage and road markings. Maybe add fluorescent and yellow-green signs, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, in roadway lights and crosswalks, enhance intersection roadway design to be more pedestrian friendly, including refuge islands and traffic calming designs. So there's, and they show some Missouri specific data at the top, how there are fatalities. That's just up to 2014. But I think if we looked at 2016 data, it would show that it went up. And some other statistics there, 77% of pedestrian fatalities occurred at a location other than at a signalized intersection or a crosswalk. And also 72% of pedestrian fatalities took place at night. So why should we accommodate for pedestrians? Well, one really good reason is that because we are all pedestrians. And so there's a lot of people who still don't believe we should be designing for pedestrians. Less so today than 10 years ago, but some still out there. So we'll go over some slides and to see how you all react to them as far as why we should design for pedestrian safety. Another reason, because many people do not drive. So, large segments of our society cannot drive, like the disabled. There's people who cannot afford a car. Some are too young to drive, and others just simply choose not to drive. Another why is because other modes depend on walking. Transit is dependent on a good walking environment. Virtually all transit trips begin and end with a walking trip. More emphasis these days on transit corridors because of pedestrian trips. Another reason is because it's good for business. People like to walkable urban environment. It's good for business, as many people can easily walk to destinations within a reasonable walking distance. So here's a slide from PedBike Info. It says that walking and bicycling are affordable forms of transportation. This has to do with the economy. Many studies have shown that support for and investment in pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure result in economic benefits for individuals, businesses, and communities. A lot of agencies know that they should design for pedestrian safety, but some only give that, some lip service. So any additional justification helps managers make the case, and economics is a powerful one, of course. Another good reason for pedestrian safety is people like to walk. Walking is a good, healthy exercise. And I've noticed a big boom in pedestrians, especially through my neighborhood, since we're all stuck at home. It seems like, more people are getting out of the house and walking around the neighborhood because it's very good exercise, and that's, you're allowed to do that if you're keeping a good social distance. But a lot of people, even before this, would get out and do a lot of walking just because it's great exercise. So I'm going to ask you guys some questions, and with Victoria's help, you're going to give us some feedback about these following three statements that I'm going to throw out there, and you let me know if you agree or disagree with these three statements.
And how should they let you know, Ray?
I'm going to let you tell them how they are going to let me know.
I would like for them to just put whether they agree or disagree in the questions box.
Okay. So the first, we'll do these one at a time, Victoria?
However you want to do it, Ray.
I didn't know if you wanted.
People are saying right now they're doing it one at a time. So let's go that way. That's always good to follow what the audience wants.
So the first statement is pedestrians are legitimate users of the transportation system and should be included as design users for all roads where pedestrians are legally permissible.
overwhelmingly they are saying that they agree, but one person said depends on the road type.
Okay, one is just where they're legally permissible. I'm not talking about freeways here.
So is this one of the ones you agreed with when you took the trainer, Ray?
Oh yeah, I agreed with this one.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to the next statement. We ready for the next statement?
You know, actually, one person commented in here, said, I'm on the fence. Several of the pedestrian users forget or don't feel they need to obey the laws. So maybe they can start commenting on the next one while you address that comment.
I can see, I mean, that's a legitimate concern. We've all seen pedestrians doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Transportation, here's the next statement. Transportation agencies should consider pedestrian safety needs when designing roads. So we're talking about at the design level before the road gets built.
And it looks like the majority are saying they agree, but one person did comment, and you know, I have to agree with them living out in a rural area. It says very rural roads are legally permissible, but not a good idea to include area for PEDs. Well, I agree with you to an extent, but you have to think too about our Amish community, because that is their form of transportation unless they're taking the horse and buggy. So I don't know, Ray, it's something you gotta kind of cipher out there.
Hey, you know, you and I both live in a rural setting. You know, I came from Pike County, Ohio. Oh my gosh, as a kid, I was walking and bicycling up and down 2-lane rural roads. Of course, you know, I grew up when we are actually going to get to this later today about, you know, like how I grew up as a kid. We were just roaming all over the place. And parents had no problem with that. And it, you know, it's different than that these days. So we're going to get to that. The final statement is transportation agencies should consider pedestrian convenience, such as delay, travel distance, etc., when designing and operating intersections and pedestrian crossing locations so that pedestrians may travel to their intended destinations without unreasonable delay.
Okay, go ahead and let us know if you agree on that one. I'm going to address a comment that came in on the last section, and someone said they're not seeing where to respond. Right where you put that comment is where we want you to respond. And then someone else, Ray, and this is more of a comment for you. Drivers of cars obey traffic laws at a lower rate than pedestrians, but we never question those users of the roadways.
Well, if they get caught doing things, you get a ticket, right?
Yeah. Well, another person commented, we have seen cars do things they shouldn't, but we still design for them.
Oh, as a safety, yeah, I think, let me.
And someone said that they agree.
A lot of roadways have a design speed that is higher than the speed limit, for instance.
Yeah, the responses are getting a little larger here. I wish we were all in a room together.
Well, let's hear them all. I want to hear if they actually put in a comment. I want to hear it.
They did. Another person said agree. What about the drivers who don't follow the rules? And then agree with proper control measures. Yes, unless locals know they will not be planning for pedestrians, say in a commercial area. Not all roads should be designed for PEDs. One person said, agree, however, in education, tact needs to be placed to inform pedestrians that they are part of the transportation system and need to obey the laws as such. Another person said, how about shared use trails along rural roads? FYI, many drivers don't follow current laws, but they are still included as design users. One person said, when it makes sense. I think this is related to your third comment there. A lot of agrees. Oh, somebody's on the fence. Hopefully we can help you get down off the fence today. Another person said, as long as it doesn't interfere with the flow of traffic, especially in congested areas. Agree as long as vehicles are also considered, would require change in design standards. agree. If inconvenient, then pens will do something other than the design. I think it should be a balance between cars and pedestrians. Yes, but ped safety is a higher priority. It's almost like those two people were talking to each other there. Agree or may cross at undesired location. And one person said they think that the pedestrian safety is more of a critical item. Tough one. Oh, they disagreed on this last one.
Okay.
Someone did. And then yes, but some peds just walk in the middle of the road, not intersections. So it's a good dialogue. It really is. Question. Oh, we have a question.
Okay.
If you're designing a road, are you talking about having a sidewalk in rural roads? Larger shoulders? So, all right, I'm going to leave you there with the comments. Great discussion, though.
Yeah, I think those are all great questions, but sometimes it just boils down into rural areas. You got your 2-lane rural roads. It could be a state route, it could be a county road, or it could be a township road. And each one of those has a different, usually they have a different right-of-way width. And so sometimes it's just impossible to, I hate to use that word, to include shared use paths and things like that. But, and of course, people's properties go all the way, sometimes go to the center line of the road. And there might be an easement in there. So that would take a lot of work, but I think that's where we're headed. I think we're with you on that. We want to provide shared use paths or wider shoulders or wider berms.
So Ray,
for pedestrian safety.
How did you come to that conclusion? Share with them what you were telling me beforehand about these comments. I mean, did you agree with every single one of these before you took the Train the Trainer?
No, because I'm just like a lot of these comments about like that first one, pedestrians are legitimate users of the transportation system, should be included as design users. But I don't like the word design users, that implies that we're talking about a roadway that hasn't been built yet. But the existing roadways, we've all seen pedestrians behaving badly, where they're walking in a lane of travel when they actually have other places they can be walking, like a sidewalk, or they are crossing at locations that are definitely unsafe, and they're not even trying to get across the road quickly when they actually could. If I'm crossing in a bad location, I usually run, but a lot of people, for some reason, they'll just walk slowly, which can lead to, of course, the other elephant in the room is, maybe we're all thinking this, like that's exactly what I thought when I first went through this class, is one of the main reasons for increased pedestrian crashes is probably we've seen distracted, not just distracted drivers, but distracted pedestrians. People are looking at their phones as they're crossing a busy street, and it's crazy. We've seen the YouTube videos of pedestrians looking at their phones and falling into the street off of the curb.
But Ray, you changed. I mean, you changed your view on all three of these, right?
Well, that is the purpose of this class. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. At this point, I don't want to say anybody's got the wrong way to look at things. So, it's good to have a debate at this part of the class and get things out in the open. And then hopefully we can change people's minds by the end of the workshop to talk about different things. So that's
what we're trying to get to with this discussion. Not that we don't agree with these. We know we agree with them. A couple comments that came in while you were talking, Ray, is someone mentioned that pedestrians, quote unquote, behave badly because we've spent 80 plus years building. Big comment just came in. Hold on. Building roads for cars and not people. Another person commenting on pedestrians stepping out in the middle of the road without looking mentioned Pokemon Go. And then
Oh,
someone else,
yeah.
someone else said, we have also seen drivers behaving badly in the same basic percentage as pedestrians, but we still consider drivers and driver convenience when planning and designing roads. Plus, roads have been around for millennia. Cars have been around for less than 150 years. So, all right, Bray.
These are good comments.
Yep.
I think I had something I wanted to say and then I lost it. It's funny that they said Pokemon Go because I'm actually going to refer to another video game from the 80s as we get through today. We'll get to that sooner than later. Okay, so hopefully you'll learn some things today. It might change some of your minds about your disagreement on some of these statements. So let's see what the next slide comes together. So, if you agree with all three of those statements, then the conclusion should be that all roads should be designed with the premise that there will be pedestrians, that they must be able to cross the street, and that they must be able to do it safely. And for transportation professionals, the question then becomes, how can this task best be accomplished? And so it says, so with all or most of the group admitting we need to design for pedestrians, we can get into the discussion about how to accomplish this task. And so why step? Over 72% of pedestrian fatalities occur at non-intersection locations. So the majority of pedestrian fatalities occur while crossing the road. Data, on the slide, only about 10 to 12% of pedestrian fatalities occur while walking along the road. And so does everybody understand that? What does non-intersection locations mean? The answer to that would be mid-block crossings. And then the final stat on the screen there is roughly 27% of pedestrian fatalities occur at intersections. And that's both signalized and unsignalized. So it could be no traffic signals or it could be stop sign controlled. Okay, so each icon at the top of the screen represents the various treatments that will, when I hit this, they all move to various locations. See that? See the quality animation you get in this class? So the step innovation is all about utilizing each of these 7 pedestrian safety treatments, and we'll go into as this webinar series continues, we go into more detail on each of those. So as you can see, some of them involve at signalized intersections, some at non-signalized intersections, and some have to do with mid-block crossings. Okay, so let's talk about our childhood, right? That's a good thing to talk about. It says the question is, how many of us grew up as free-range children? I know I did. I mean, I would go up to 2 miles away to meet people to play basketball or softball or just to play anything, I guess, either by walking or biking. And so this is, why did the chick cross the road? I'm a free-range chick. Or slow, free-range children. But another class I taught for LTAP about 10 years ago was had to do with helping neighborhoods put together something called a walking school bus. And that is just to get kids to walk to school with some assistance from volunteering parents instead of being taken to school in a minivan and dropped off in front of the school. There's actually some bad things derived out of that. One of those was childhood obesity, for example. One of the things we did in that class is think back to your third grade class and all the stuff you did that's different from the kids of today. I was in third grade like in 1974, I think. So we walked everywhere and they asked, well, think about the kids in your class. How many of them do you remember as being obese? And I think I had let's say if I had 30 people in my class, this is true. There was maybe one kid that was obese. And that's a lot different than today. So they had the stat that 35% of third grade school children are actually considered obese or overweight in today's third grade classes. So there are some benefits to being a free range child, but I guess we need to get back to that if we can. But of course, with this class, that's maybe that could be a benefit if we are able to improve the safety of pedestrians. That's obviously a reason why parents today don't want their kids to be a pedestrian, because the stats are showing that it's not that safe. So the question is, are your kids free range? If you got young kids, are they free range today?
Ray, there's quite a few comments in the box about people who did walk. They mostly within a few blocks to friends' houses, as long as they told their mom. Another person said, we did this at my kid's school and it was great, very successful. Another person said, I did walk to school, friends' houses, parks, walked home from school at lunch. Another person said they walked 2 miles to school starting in third grade back in 1968.
Nice.
But they do agree with you that, it seemed like it was safer back then than it is now.
Well, I think the data shows that. Okay, so let's go through some slides that show the challenges of crossing a roadway. First, we'll talk about how times have changed. So, are your kids free range? People want to raise free range children, but obviously have some concerns. Here's the minivan, the kids that are raised by being driven in a minivan everywhere they go. Okay, here's this one. I think this is our first polling question, Victoria. So we're going to ask you a question. Victoria, you want to put the question? Take a good look at this picture and then
I launched the question already.
Okay, that's okay.
Would you allow your children, nieces, or nephews to cross the street by themselves? And they're answering fast and furious.
Let's count the lanes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 lanes. 3 lanes in each direction and a 2-way left turn lane in the middle.
Wow. Okay, we're getting there. I like to get at least 80% response, so we don't record which way you voted on these. So we'll make sure the photo gets put back up in between, but like Ray said, it's a 7 lanes, 3 in each direction with a 2-way left turn in the middle. Now, when I think about you asking this question, you're probably talking about younger kids, not necessarily older teenagers, right?
Right. Would you let young children or your young niece or nephew, or even we could go the other way too with elderly. Could you let your elderly grandmother cross this road?
I'm gonna go ahead and share the poll results now.
Okay.
And let look at that road for a couple more minutes there.
Okay.
Somebody want to know how old that road was. How old was that picture? We'll have to send that back to Peter and ask him.
It doesn't look like it's too old, does it? I mean,
I don't know. The McDonald's sign, though, is classic. All right, here's the answer to the poll. 90% of you said no, and 10% said yes. So,
okay.
All right, I'm going to hide the poll
Okay.
answers.
With the majority saying
Yeah.
no, I guess we can
I
say
tried
that.
to hide it, Ray. I think you're going to have to.
Okay.
Well, let me see. Maybe it was my end here. All right, I hit them. Okay, good.
All
You're
right.
good there.
So the fact that 90% said no, I think this is one of the reasons that we need the STEP program. Okay, let's take a look at the screen here. It goes into high connectivity of streets, moderate connectivity, low connectivity. We don't, in this workshop, we don't really go into transportation planning a lot, but this slide shows how more connectivity means there's less of a need for a wide street. Conversely, low connectivity leads to wide streets as all trips rely on the arterial roadways. So, like those middle pictures, it shows a school up in the upper right and the house in the middle of the subdivision. You can walk from your house in the subdivision using the local streets to walk to your school. But in the bottom picture, there's low connectivity of the street, so you'd actually have to exit your subdivision onto the arterial street to get to your school.
Hey, Ray, are the blocks on the right-hand side supposed to be fully black?
Yeah, hang on.
Okay.
Hey, look.
Sorry. How about
It's
that?
magic.
Okay. Just want
See
to
what
make
we
sure.
got here.
After
So with high
Tuesdays.
connectivity,
Sorry.
you got your 2-lane roads, and then in the middle, moderate connectivity, maybe you only need a 3-lane roadway, and then you need 5 or more for low connectivity. What did you just say, Victoria?
I was just worried about the black boxes after Tuesdays, technical difficulties. So I will add that someone put in the chat that in Redmond, they have school back paths for the bottom neighborhood. So apparently they've actually made walking paths from the neighborhoods to the school to deal with that lack of connectivity issue, which is a great option if you're able to do it.
I think we tried to do that at the city of Columbus because in the 80s and 90s, everybody wanted to live on a cul-de-sac in the suburb. And it was hard there was no way you're going to get a walking path out back through somebody's lot on a cul-de-sac. They would fight tooth and nail for that. But it's good that, where is Redmond? I wonder, is that in Ohio or another state? All right, let's go to the next screen. It says.
She said Washington State.
Oh, wow. Hello, Washington. We were all set to come to the state of Washington in July because the national LTAP conference was going to be in Seattle, and I had never been to Seattle before. I was so excited. But of course, we had to cancel it. But maybe in 2 years, I'll be able to go there again.
It was postponed. We're still planning to go out there 2022.
Okay, so in this slide, we see it says pedestrians don't always cross in crosswalks or other locations deemed desirable by designers or traffic engineers. They're kind of like electricity. They usually follow the path of least resistance. So here we have a pedestrian who had the capability to walk to a close by signalized crossing, but they chose to cross at where the driveway of the office building is.